Good evening, friends. Today, we have two eminent guests joining us to discuss the Vedic way of life, Vedic rituals and their significance, plus many rituals we do without even realizing their significance. Professor P.R. Mukund, Department of Electrical and Microelectronic Engineering at Rochester Institute of Technology, Rochester, New York, and M.R. Venkatesh, advocate and senior partner at Agastya Legal, who we are all very familiar with, and we love to welcome both of them. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And viewers, you can ask questions towards the end of the show. MR said that he can be with us till at least 7:50. So maybe you could ask him any questions before that. Okay, thank you. Yeah, let us just move on to the topic. Vedism takes its name from the collection of sacred texts known as the Vedas. Vedism is the oldest branch of religious activity in India for which there exists written materials. It was one of the major traditions that shaped Sanatana Dharma. The only surviving Vedic materials are the texts known as the Vedas, which were composed and handed down orally over a period of 10 centuries from about the 15th to the 5th century BCE. The Vedic corpus is composed in an archaic Sanskrit. The most important texts are also the oldest ones. They are from the four collections, Samhitas, that are called the Veda or Vedas. The Rig Veda or the Veda of verses, the Yajur Veda or Veda of the sacrificial formulas, the Sama Veda or Veda of chants, and the Atharva Veda, a later compilation that includes incantations and magic spells. Professor Mukund, we could start with the first question. How do you integrate Sanatana Dharma with the present Samaja Dharma? And you could take our youth into context as you speak about this.
Thank you, Meena, for inviting me to this forum. My feeling is that, there's a difference between religion and spirituality. Spirituality is based on knowledge, whereas religion is based on a set of do's and don'ts. So what happens is that, especially when you talk about the youth that you refer to, the very nature of young people is that if you tell them to stay within certain bound, they're curious, they'll try to step out of the bound to see what happens. That's just nature, right? On the other hand, spirituality is like giving them wings so they can fly up, look at the landscape, and land where they want to land, right? So there's a huge difference between the two things. And I think spirituality is very much based on knowledge. And when you talk about knowledge, there are two types of knowledge, right? If I can use an analogy, I'll just take 30 seconds to explain this. For example, look at the technology that the three of us are using to communicate with each other. This is based on electronics.
Yes.
And I've spent 46 years in the field of electronics, right? That's what I do. Now, there's an interesting point, though. Having done research and lectured on things worldwide and all that, there's one interesting fact. As of today, I'm sorry to tell you that I've never seen even one single electron, right? So I've never seen an electron in my life, and yet I'm in the field of electronics. So similarly, when people say, show me, well, we cannot show everything, right? Not because it doesn't exist, it is because we are incapable of seeing it. There's a difference between inability to see something versus it not being there because I cannot see it.
Yeah.
So to make sure that just like in electrical engineering, I go teach what is the impact of an electron being there and how to use it. Same thing if we do in the Vedic knowledge, the young people are very, very receptive. That's my experience. And they use it not just for their spiritual life, but personal and professional as well.
Yeah. So one thing I've noticed, Professor, is that, especially on social media, as I was talking to you before we came into the show, is that, our youngsters get pretty petrified when, people from other religions start saying that, what we're doing is wrong, we have idols, we have this, we have that, and they criticize Sanatana Dharma. We suddenly go on the defensive and start giving explanations. But instead of doing that, if they went into studying what it really meant and the significance behind it, I think their explanation would be more easily, palatable. is what I think.
I
Mr.
I totally
yeah,
agree.
yeah,
Before I say something, I want to um, uh, invite Sri Venkatesh to put in his comment on that. Then I'll respond to that.
yeah, absolutely.
Uh, Minaji, the point is our critics are multifarious.
Yeah,
So it could be from the sublime to the ridiculous. The criticism of Sanatana Dharma can be sometimes very pointed, sometimes
yeah,
very ridiculous.
yeah,
So unless, and you are supposed to have a 360-degree view to
yeah,
defend your, sometimes as Mukunji points out, I can be an atheist and yet be a Hindu,
yeah,
because my spirituality is not limited to any ritual or ritualistic mode of worship. I can step back and say that all these things that you have put forth is wrong, and I have my own philosophy of talking to God. Or I can say Meena is my God, Mukund is my God, and that is also allowed. Now look at the Abrahamic faiths. Now you can't change a comma or a full stop in Quran, for
yeah,
instance. Now Ahmadiyas, who are part of the Muslim world, Islamdom, as we say, don't question Prophet Muhammad.
yeah,
Don't question his existence.
yeah.
Don't question the Quran or Hadith or Surah. But they say that there will be yet another prophet following Prophet Muhammad. And they have been decided or declared to be heretic.
Yeah.
They, and the Pakistani constitution has passed a law, constitutional amendment, declaring Ahmadiyas to be heretical and non-Muslims.
Yeah.
So you have to see that there is a religion that that approximates to spirituality, as Mukundji puts it.
Yeah.
That you can be ritualistic. You can go to the temple.
Yeah.
For instance, we go in our village temple in the morning. There will be Vedic chants. There will be Brahmins who would perform the puja, the most Vedic way. And there are people who would perform puja in the evening in the most non-Vedic way, meaning they would be giving a goat for sacrifice, they may give a chicken for sacrifice. Both are equally accepted. And there is nothing one superior to the other. Both are accepted by all sides. You go to a Kali temple, you have this sacrifice of certain animals,
Yes.
which is an integral part of Hinduism. But you can't define Hinduism through sacrifice of animals. So it is a very uncoded religion. So to defend it, if you start questioning, say, an animal sacrifice, so the animal sacrifice of a particular branch of Hinduism may be taken in, and then compared and say, in what way are you superior or what way are you inferior? This is where we get into a problem with dialoguing with others. Since you are not defined or codified in any strict sense, you are with a religion which is packaged as codified, which is absolutely done with some precision in terms of its hierarchy, in terms of its presentation. Our youngsters are not able to assimilate our thoughts. That is why it is incumbent that our generation creates that interest, as Mukunji very rightly said. Take them to a heights and show them what is available on the table, and then give it to them. The bird will then stoop down to pick its whatever it wants to eat or whatever it wants to have on the table.
Yeah.
Mukunji, your views.
Yeah.
In the first place, I don't look at our way of life as a religion at all. In fact, I don't even consider myself to be a very religious person. And yet, if you look at my way of life, in the morning I do Shaligrama Puja, I do homas on a regular basis. I have done 330 plus Sudarshana homas. So, you may look at this, oh, this guy is a religious guy. Actually, I'm not a religious person at all. And that may sound very odd, but let me explain that briefly. In the first place, when we do something, karma. Okay, let me just quickly respond to what Sri Venkatesh said about sacrifice and so on. There are people, 70% of the population in India approximately eat non-vegetarian food, roughly, right? So that's what they eat, right? For generations, they've eaten that. It's not a question of right or wrong. That's what they do. Now, there are two ways of
Exactly.
doing this. One way is to offer it to God and take it as prasada, or just go to a butcher shop, kill it, and eat it. I don't see why, if what they're going to eat anyway, they're going to kill the animal anyway, they're going to eat the meat anyway, right? If they just say, hey, Bhagavan, please accept this as my offering to you, and then eat it,
Eat it.
what is wrong with that? Because they're going to eat that anyhow. So are you going to go and if I come to Bangalore, which is my hometown, one thing that shocks me is that the area in South Bangalore where I grew up, there's so many chicken shops and all these things that was unheard of when I was a kid,
Yeah.
right? So things change. That is fine. Now let me respond to your main question, which is that, see, it's not a question of other religions or anything for me. My thing is, we have something extremely valuable, very, very, very valuable. The question is, it's not a ritual. The moment we limit it to a ritual, we have a problem.
Yeah.
I would call it Vaidika karma. So if you look at karma, right, which is different from a ritual, by the way, a
Yeah.
karma, if you take that word in Sanskrit, karma, you can split it into two parts. There's kara and ma. Okay, my guru used to say this all the time in public places. So I'm basically quoting him. By the way, he just passed away a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, so kara and there is ma, right? So kara, as all of us know, is karya, it's action, physical action, right? Now, physical action has two parts: speech and what we do. It has two parts externally, right?
Yeah.
Ma, what we call dhatu patha in Sanskrita, which is the root meaning. One of the dhatu pathas of ma is knowledge.
Yeah.
So the question is, in your mind, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you look at a quote unquote sacrifice,
Yeah.
if the intention internally, I don't care what you're saying or doing outside, your intention is to kill an animal, that is adharma. If the intention is to offer it to God and take it as prasada, as food, that is dharma, right? So it is the knowledge and the intention that defines dharma and adharma. Now, when you remove the knowledge part, it becomes a ritual. Now, rituals can be criticized, but if you don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, like for example, I'll just give you an example, right? We do something called achamana, right, at the beginning of puja. We say Keshvaya Swaha, Narayana Swaha, Madhava. You take, put some water. You say, why don't you just take a cup of water and drink it? Why are you doing it 3 times? You're stupid. It makes no sense. Well, that is because you don't even know what I'm doing, why I'm doing, right? You can only see what I'm doing, but you don't know why I'm doing it. And the impact is not based on, yes, I can take it. I have my green tea here, I can drink it. But that's not the same as doing achama.
Yeah.
For you, it may be the same, but for me, it's very different because when you do Achama and say Keshava is Swaha, Narayana Swaha, Madhava. So Keshava, Narayana, Madhava. So if I know what those things are, and if that is what I'm invoking inside for cleansing my inner self, I don't think anybody will argue with that. The problem is when we don't know that, is when you try to defend the action. My thing is, don't ever, in the first place, you don't have to defend anything. I have every right to live the way I want. I don't have to prove anything to anybody, right? But having said that, if you feel compelled to defend yourself, then I would say defend the knowledge and not the action.
Right.
I'm done.
Recently, an ISKCON member said he called these cows and sheep and all that as neighbors. So he said, "Why would we eat our neighbors?" You know. So, and then when he went on to explain it, I found it really humorous because it's absolutely true. I mean, it's a living being, and they are our neighbors. They live all around us. Yes.
Well,
Okay.
I think focusing on the not look, whether we say these things or not, the people who are non-vegetarian will be non-vegetarian. Okay,
Yeah.
you're not going to change that. And secondly, there is nothing that I know of, and not that I know everything. I know very little, but whatever little I know, I don't think there's anything in our way of life that actually tells you personal things. The
Yeah.
personal choices are left to you. They
Yeah.
focus on bigger, much bigger things.
Yeah. Professor, is Sanatana Dharma scientific?
Absolutely. Let me, in the first place, like I said, I've spent 46 years in the field of electronics. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've written papers, I've chaired conferences, I've done all kinds of things, right? So
Yeah.
um, I come from that background. That's my background,
Yeah.
right? Not
Yeah.
so much science, but engineering, research. Fine. So a lot of times people think that when they look at me and my lifestyle, there is a contradiction. I have a contradiction between what I do professionally and what I do personally. Actually, there isn't. And
Yeah.
here's the reason. You look at science,
Yeah.
any science, how do you define science? I ask this to young people all the time. Say, before you say something is scientific or not
Yeah.
scientific. It is, maybe it isn't. But the question is, how do you define science? Science, this is what science is, okay? Which is you come up with a hypothesis.
Yeah.
So you see something, okay? Internally, you see something. Now, you don't know if it's true or not. You just don't know. Now, to
Yeah.
prove that, what we do is we design a controlled experiment and we repeat that experiment over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Now, if it turns out that over a very large data set, this controlled experiment proves the accuracy of that hypothesis, we accept that hypothesis up until somebody else proves something else. Now, that is science. That's how science works. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I told you earlier, I've never seen an electron in my life, and yet I made a fantastic living in electronics, But that's not the point. So the question is, how do we deal with it here in this context that we are talking about? My thing is that for every single thing we do, or every single thing we speak, kaya, vacha, manasa, three components, right? Action, speech, and thought. My focus should be, what is my thought behind this? We have to focus on that. And if
Yeah.
you focus on that, you'll find that all of these things are very scientific, because over tens of thousands of years, they've repeated this experiment over and over again, and it works. It actually works. I can tell you from personal experience that it works. I can give many examples, but given the time
Yeah.
thing, I'm stopping.
Yeah. Professor, why is haldi, kumkum, and sindoor used in puja?
Okay, so I'm laughing because I talked about this in Delhi. There's a place called Indira Gandhi Center, National Center for Arts or something. So they recorded this, and it was put up on Twitter by one of my shishyas, and about,
Yeah.
I don't know, like 500,000 people have watched it, and they, oh wow! And I thought,
Yeah.
this is fundamental. This is so fundamental. So
Yeah.
the thing, every time we do puja, we put, you say, like if you call a priest or something, you say haridra churnam samarpayami, and then you say, okay, put some arishana, as we call haldi, and then kunkuma churnam samarpayami, sundara churnam samarpayami. The question is, what's behind this? Now, if priest is saying something in Sanskrit, you are picking up some powder and putting it, it has no value. Okay, because you're thinking something and just putting some. You might as well mix all the powder and put it one time. Productivity, right? So
Yeah.
what's the point in this? Now,
Yeah.
the thought behind this, which is an important thing, is basically this:
Yeah.
energy that comes from the sun, and we all survive because of the energy that comes from the sun. Not just the light, but the energy, right? That energy, in our ability to comprehend, there are things beyond that, by the way. but
Yeah.
just in our narrow ability to observe, has 7 distinct components, and they blend into each other.
Yeah.
They taught us that in primary school, middle school, right? Vibgayar and all those things. The lowest frequency of which, the lowest frequency is red.
Yeah.
Okay? So red type of energy represents karma, desire.
Yeah.
So what happens is mankind, it's got nothing to do with being a Hindu or something.
Yeah.
Every single human being is blessed with this desire.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who doesn't have a desire for something. So that karma is already there. Now here's the thing: when we do puja, so you do something and we're going to ask for something. That's our human nature. We don't just do it and leave it at that. We say, oh, give me this, give me that, whatever. So the thing is that the things that I ask for may be good for me, it may not be good for me. I don't even know that. Right? Now, Arishina, that is haldi, yellow energy, is disinfecting energy. It's a disinfectant. I remember when I was a kid, if I had a cut or something, my mother would just put Arishina, they didn't put ointment in those days, right? Shows you look at my gray hair. So that's a long time ago. So Arishina happens to be a disinfectant. That is haldi, is a disinfectant, right? Yellow color energy is also disinfecting. The entire Vedic science is the science of energy, not science of matter. The Western science is a science of matter. Vedic science is the science of energy, and matter and energy are the 2 components of the universe. So if you look at this yellow energy, it is disinfecting. So what we do first is when you say Haridra Chudam Samarpayam and we put that haldi, in my mind, what I should be saying that, hey Lord, I'm going to ask you for something. I'm an idiot and I'm going to ask you for something. Okay. So whatever I ask, before I even do that, please bless me. You see, in Veda there's a thing that says yatha yatha upaste tadev bhavati. That is whatever you offer is what you get back in reflection. So when we offer haldi, our hope is that immediately I will get in return the disinfecting component, so that when I ask for something, the red color, that is already disinfected. So I'll never ask for something that's not good for me. Okay.
Yeah.
So then Kunkuma Churnam Samarpayami. Also I say, okay, fine, I'm going to ask for something.
Yeah.
Okay. But let that even that offering, let that asking, let that also be an offering to you.
Yeah.
Thirdly, Sindura Churna, right? That is saffron color. Saffron color is Vairagya, as we call it, that is detached attachment, right? So my thing is, if you happen to, this me talking to the one above, if you happen to give me something I asked for, in case, along with that, bless me with one other thing, which is detachment from that. Let me enjoy it without attachment. So this is the thought or the science, if you will, before this offering. Unfortunately, most of us are not taught that at home or school or anywhere. So we randomly just do it. If somebody says, why are you putting all this color powder on something? I don't know. I mean, we just do it. That's our puja. Don't question that. Hinduism is great and all. Just forget about all that. This is what the thought is. And tell me, how can anybody argue with that?
Yeah. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Well said, sir. Well said.
Professor, yeah, please.
Can I ask you some question, Mr. Mukund? It's a fascinating thing that you are linking to the thought, which is, according to you, and very rightly so, dominates, should dominate everything. And unfortunately, what has happened is we have lost this connectivity with the basic science or basic idea. So my question to you, sir, is, I hope you're on the line, sir.
I think a bit of a problem with it.
I think there is some connectivity problem with him.
Yeah.
The question I wanted to raise was whether this thought process can be explained on each and every major steps that we take in our daily puja routines and other things that we do, if it is explained in a scientific manner, probably many people who want to understand it but don't have the bandwidth to understand, probably they will get encouraged to do all these things from a very scientific way. And the way Mr. Mukund explained it, that would have been a very brilliant exposition of what we are doing.
Meanwhile, Emar, could I ask you a question with regards to the book you're writing and for which you have taken a sabbatical?
Yes.
In fact, for the viewers, Emar Venkatesh, who's writing a book entitled Retaining Balance, The Eternal Way, explains in his first chapter how a man and woman have to have a balance in society. In other words, we need to have a monogamous society, not a polygamous one. Emar, you've dealt with the institute of marriage. How is the Indic way different from marriages in other religions?
See, marriage is a sacrament for us.
Yeah.
It is not meeting of two bodies, it is meeting of two souls.
Yes.
So fundamentally, there is a difference between, say, marriage in, say, Islam, which is basically a contract, or even Christianity, which doesn't give too much of importance to the sacrament part. But of course, it is more towards a sacrament part than a contractual part, as in the case of Islam.
Yeah.
But more importantly, there is no explicit prohibition of, shall I say, monogamy in any of the religions, including any text. Because even in Hinduism, if you find, you will not find any religion or any. Sorry, Mr. Mukund, I think you got disconnected.
Yes, I don't know what happened. So now I'm using my phone. So it's okay. We'll continue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Professor Mukund, we're just talking to Emar and asking him about the importance of monogamous marriages as compared to polygamous ones. Yeah, polygamous ones, which is what he's writing about in the first chapter of his book.
Okay. So the idea is that biologically, you will see a baby boy for a baby girl. So that's how it is. So naturally, a man for a woman is what defines the institution of marriage. There can be aberrations, and there will be. In the society, there will be people who may be Vivekanandas, and there will be people who may marry multiple number of times. That is their personal choice. And most religions have not commented explicitly on this. But in case of Islam, the Prophet married anywhere between 11 to 13 times. That is the evidence that most Islamic scholars present. And the point I'm driving at is about larger issue of balance in a society, and that is a prerequisite for an economy to function orderly. So I create a lot of preconditions for a functional economy to be stable and to be eternal. For that, one of my arguments is that the institution of marriage, the family, is the fundamental or the basic building block in any society. And for a society to be stable, a family to be stable, and for a family to be stable, it has to be monogamous. And if it is polygamous, a man takes multiple wives, then large number of men are left without the benign touch of a woman. This is a very serious problem there, where they're beginning from their psychological and biological needs. They find it that they have to find a partner not in their own society where they grew up, but from a different society, which is what gives rise to this concept of jihad. In my personal view, I have put forward this hypothesis that when men are constrained to look for women, because there is a perennial shortage of women within their own society, they are compelled to hunt out for women. So this creates a necessity. This creates a society which is on the boil. And this is the most basic of all urges in any human being, mainly the biological need. But if a society that doesn't provide you this amount of leverage or an ability or puts you into a natural order, and hence there is always a need to pick up women as a booty, this creates two types of imbalances. One is the imbalances on the numerical side, that is between man and woman, because biologically one man is to a woman. But more importantly, it puts the society on the boil that you have to hunt down women, and women as a property to be taken in.
Yeah.
And if you die in the process, there are 72 virgins waiting for you up in the heaven.
Yeah.
Now, this disorder within the polygamous society, and I have talked about Marxian society, I have talked about liberal societies, I have talked about subsequent societies, assumptions and other things in my subsequent chapters.
Yeah.
But primarily the point I'm driving at is that the whole idea of Islam as a complete package, and a completed package, is that it rests on polygamy. And because every true Muslim is supposed to ape the lifestyle of Prophet Muhammad, and Prophet Muhammad has married multiple times, so I should also marry multiple times in order to meet the imperial demands of Islam. So this creates a huge dichotomy within the Islamic society. I am only restricting to Islamic society, though that is not the point on which I am dealing on my book. There are several imbalances that I talk about. I talk about even the Hindu society, where female infanticide is very common. And in China, after the one-child norm, they allowed women to abort female fetuses, and female infanticide was very common. And they ensured that they had one male progeny to carry on the bloodline. So this is the problem for many societies, that there is an amount of patriarchy. But our traditional way of looking at it was to have a feminine divine, seek divinity in femininity. And that is why if you look at Abrahamic faiths, now they discover to their horror that the femininity in divinity is absent. There is no goddess. The God, Holy Spirit, and the Son of God are all male members. So there is no feminine character in this entire structure. So there is always a problem for 50% of the population, one half of the population, to relate to even the religious side. To them, it always occurs that the gospels or teachings or fables or stories that flow from any religion to which they are supposed to be connected always has a vacuum, a gender vacuum, which probably is something that the world is now comprehending. That is why even in Christianity, there is enormous amount of steps to elevate Mother Mary into a level of God. See, Yashoda is not goddess. Yashoda is mother of God. So we have no such problems. We have goddess in mothers. Okay, we have mother goddesses also. So our sisters can be gods, our daughters can be gods. So we have this enormous leverage in the joints, which probably the Abrahamic faith don't have, and they come and preach us as to how do we should deal with femininity, and how I'm sure, Meena, you will be finding it fascinating. And this is the origination of your feminist ideas, because every female is supposed to be flowing from the original sin and carries the original sin of Eve. And that is why every Christian is born bad, and only he has to look at Christ for salvation. So it's a very complex one. When you are condemned to be born bad, you have no other way but to look at salvation only through Christ, and that is the only way. So these are all problems that the world is facing, and that creates a lot of societal and family and gender and other imbalances, which manifests in constitutional or legal imbalances, economic imbalances, and certain other imbalances, and that doesn't provide answers to many of our problems. That is the overarching theme that I'm trying to project.
In fact, Professor, my next question is exactly that. See, in the Vedic form of life, we have given more importance to women than to men. Isn't that true? Could you talk about that?
Can I just quickly say something about what Sri Venkatesh said?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know anything about other dharmas, so I would not speak on that. But I don't know about the economics and all that. I don't know any of those things. But let me say just a couple of words about something I know a little bit about, which is that what happens when every language, Meena, is external manifestation of a culture. Okay. So a language is an external manifestation of a way of life, a way of thought. So when we use the word marriage, that's an English word, and it represents certain things. Okay. If you look at grihastha immediately it means something totally different. Right? It's completely different. We're not talking about the same thing, right? It's not just a man and a woman coming together for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Whether it's based on need or whatever, grihastha ashrama is something very different, where a griha, we call it grihastha ashrama. So, without going into meanings of all those things, let me just jump forward so I don't take up too much of your time. But in a grihastha ashrama, the fundamental thing is that a man and a woman, when they come together in that ashrama, they have to do dana to society, right? So dana is an offering. It's an offering to God through society. Yeah. So even the children that we raise, they are an offering to society as the future citizens. So it's more a responsibility,
exactly,
that ashrama, rather than me having fun or something. Now, nobody is stopping you from having fun. Okay.
Yeah.
In the Sanatana Dharma, every single thing is a celebration.
Yeah.
Even getting the first haircut is
under responsibility.
Yeah.
Of course, everything comes with a responsibility. You never get something for nothing, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, what are you getting, and what is the price? What are you offering in return?
Yeah.
So in Grihastha Ashrama, one of the things you notice is that every karma, it doesn't matter what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like when you take the kid to school, right? We do Aksharabhyasa. Whatever, first haircut, for heaven's sake, is chola, right? Everything is spiritual. You turn everything into something spiritual, number one. And secondly, associated with every single thing, there's a dana. Right? So that's what Grihastha Ashrama is all about. So the question is, how much are we, just because of the fact that, let's say me and my wife came together, we've been together for 37 years. So in those 37 years, what are the offerings we made to society? There's, even to this day, it's going to happen even this week, as a matter of fact, in our house. So when I do something, like let's say I do a home or something like that. So there are students who come. So we have to do Jnanadana and we have to do Annadana.
Yeah.
Right? So our whole concept of Grihastha Ashrama is about dana. Other things are purely personal. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It's my life, it's my thing. No, I don't need to explain anything to anybody. It doesn't concern anybody. Right? So that's what makes it dharma. Dharma is when energy is flowing out of me into society.
Yeah.
Adharma is for my existence, I'm sucking up energy from society.
Yeah.
So if everybody is sucking up energy from society, who the heck is going to offer energy to society? If enough people are not doing that, what happens is all the energy that we are sucking will be negative energy. And therefore, if negative things happen to us, at a personal level, at a family level, and a society level. Why are we surprised? Because we are not offering enough positive energy to society. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but that's my perception.
No.
In fact, Grahasthas are the people who are most capable of giving something to the society, because once you are in the brahmacharya ashrama or vanaprastha or sannyasa, you are probably not in your phase of life where you can actually produce or give something. And this is the Grahastha ashrama are the people in that phase of life where they can produce, consume, and consumption with amount of discipline. And a discipline that overarching is the overarching theme in our way of life. And even when you go to a war, understand, war is a discipline. Yuddha dharma, you call it Yuddha dharma, meaning that war has got, trade has got discipline. Everybody has got a discipline, and discipline means self-control, self-regulation, and stepping back and allowing things where you talk about your own restrictions in your own way of life, and that is not compelled or impelled by certain external forces. That is why Jaya was the original name of Mahabharata, and Jaya actually became Mahabharata after several centuries probably. Jaya, finally, Mahabharata story is about conquering your own inner desires, your own inner weaknesses. And therefore, we are supposed to have that discipline, that overarching dharma in everything we do. So it is not only we do dharma and puja. In fact, the word dharma cannot be translated to English. Like what Mr. Mukundji said, marriage is not Grahastha ashrama. I hope Mukundji can also elaborate on this. Dharma is not righteousness. Dharma is not way of life, because dharma is a discipline. And probably Arjuna could kill his brothers, his cousins, his teachers, and that was accepted as a dharma, not for me. In fact, we have to remove the text from the context and distill it and look at it. For me, it may not be appropriate. For you, it may not be appropriate. But the overarching lesson that's flowing from Mahabharata is that all of us have to adhere to discipline, which is to be brought by our own self. The self-discipline is more important than a regimented religion or a religion, because dharma is absent. In fact, Mukundji used the word other dharmas. I think other dharmas don't exist. There is only one dharma, which is eternal. Other dharmas are probably religions. We give them that respect and say other dharma. But in fact, the Hindi translation of the word secular is originally, I am told, it was dharma nirpeksh. Then they said it should be pantha nirpeksh. So you can see the subtle change in the semantics. There is only one dharma. Dharma is eternal. But other religions are not something that is attuned to the idea of dharma. That is the point I would like to make.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Professor, my next point is, again, going back to the point that women are more important in the Vedic.
Yes. Sorry, yeah. I got sidetracked and forgot about that question.
MR always does that.
Meena will never forget women. She's very passionate towards women.
Okay. So I don't know. I personally, it's not a question of anybody being more important. The thing is that I think if you, instead of looking at a woman, let me slightly change that and say that looking at a mother. Because every woman is either a mother or a potential mother at any age, right? I'm not saying that all women are mothers. I'm not saying that. But by nature, like I cannot become a mother, even if I want to, right? So a lady is, that's why we always we say that all parastris, you look at them as your mother. Right? That's a starting point. Now, after that, there's a Matrudevo Bhava, then Pitrudevo Bhava. Then, of course, there is Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti, and all that. But if you just look at the first two, the question is, why is it that they said Matru Devo Bhava before Pitra Devo Bhava? It's not saying that somebody is more important or something. Here's the deal, right? So if you go to a temple, the innermost, again, we are talking in English, unfortunately, but the innermost part is what we refer to as Garbha Gudi.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, only a woman has Garbha. A man doesn't have Garbha. So when a woman is going to become a mother, when the child is growing in her Garbha, I don't want to use English words, it is like a gudi. It's like a temple. Because according to our faith and belief system, when the Jiva comes there, along with that, the Devata Shaktis come there. And that is how, for every, even Jnanendriyas, like your eyes and ear and all that, there's a Abhimana Devata.
Yeah.
Like for the eyes, Surya is the Abhimana Devata.
Yeah.
And for our ears, Chandra is the Abhimana Devata. These are not just random concepts, right? So all these Devata Shaktis have to come and reside there at that time for this baby to develop properly. So that is why if you see an expectant lady, these Devata Shaktis are present in that lady twice, once in her body and once in that child, right? No man can do that. We can provide for things, right? And because of that, and also the mother not only carries this child, but goes through the Vedana, gives birth, and takes care of the baby afterwards. So when we look at our own being, the person who's most responsible for my well-being was my mother first, and then my father. And therefore we say Matru Devo Bhava and then Pitra Devo Bhava. Even sannyasis, if somebody takes sannyasa ashrama, they don't have to go bow down to their father. The father has to come and do namaskara to the sannyasi. But the sannyasi has to go to namaskara to his mother.
Yeah.
That is the amount of understanding. It's not just respect. It's understanding of the value that we have of women in society.
Yeah. My next question, Professor, is that how important is listening to mantras on a daily basis important for people? And considering that there are so many mantras, how do people decide which is important and which can be kept for another day or that sort of thing?
Did you say reciting or listening?
Listening.
Listening?
Because most people will not know all the words, but they find it easier to listen to mantras in the morning. And
actually, I'd like to differentiate between a few things. There is, we have japa, tapa. They're different things, right? Dhyana. These are all different things. So I can turn on something on my phone or something and listen to it, which is fine. Something good falls on my ear and okay, that's fine. But if you can go just one step beyond that, right? Every single human being, it doesn't matter who you are. You can be anybody. You can be in any state. I can be sleeping, taking a bath, whatever. Okay. Nama japa is something that we can all do. Okay. Now, in that Nama Japa, it's not my theory, I'm just repeating something straight from Mahabharata, is that when there was a conversation between Yudhishthira and Bhishma, and Yudhishthira asked Bhishma the same question. He didn't say, what should you listen to? He says, there are so many dharmas, so many things, I don't know, I'm getting confused. So can you tell me one thing that if I do every day, it'll help? And the answer to that was Vishnu Sahasranama. And the reason that Vishnu Sahasranama is very important is because it's not about, so immediately people say, oh, what about, Shiva Sahasranama or something. if you look at again what is behind it, the fact of the matter is, in that thing, every single word is taken from something called, it's actually taken from Rig Veda.
Yeah.
Okay, so those 1,000 things are words are taken, and the sound that it creates cleanses all the 72,000 nadis in our system. So if you are incapable of reciting it, yes, you can listen to it, right? But every single mantra is different, by the way. That's knowledgeable. Mantra is something that you get upadesha from your guru. Okay, so that is something strictly between me and my guru.
Yeah.
So once I get that mantra upadesha, then I use that mantra every day for getting energy within.
But then you hear all the temples, having Gayatri mantra in the mornings.
Yeah. So see, Vishwamitra Gayatri, that again, one needs to get upadesha. You can listen to it. There's nothing wrong. You can listen to it. But the thing is that for you to actually get the maximum usage out of it, if I can give you an analogy, I always, when I tell my students that a mantra is like a capsule.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I can take a capsule with no medicine inside it and nothing much happens. Just if I just swallow a green capsule, the capsule doesn't do anything. It's what is inside the capsule that actually does the effect. Similarly, a mantra, when just the words are not the main thing. It is the energy contained in it. And that energy, when you get upadesha, is the tapashakti and the energy that your guru and his parampara, his entire parampara, all of that energy is embedded in that when he gives you that upadesha. So what happens is, if you use that, you get tremendous energy. Now, you may say that, so does it mean that if I, try to find out the meaning of Gayatri mantra by myself and then chant it, is that bad? No, of course not. Of course not. Of course you can do it. But the amount of effect that you have, I'll tell you, there's something we refer to as Ashtakshara mantra, right?
Yeah.
Om Namo Narayanaya. Now, that anybody can say, I can sit here and say Om Namo Narayanaya. Nobody can stop me from doing that, right? And there's nothing bad about that, right? And I picked that particular one because your name is Meena Narayan. There are other mantras too. But I can do that. But when that same Ashtakshara mantra is, I get it as a upadesha from my guru. If I chant that, it has a different value.
But they always say that, see, if you want to keep your enemies away, you chant this mantra. And if you want to do something good for somebody, that's another mantra. And if you want to really follow Shiva, there is, a very strong mantra that can keep your enemies away. Yeah, Emma, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, at 7:52, I would have to make an exit.
Okay. Thank you so much, Emma, and from big thank you from the viewers as well.
Thanks.
Nice talking to you. Namaste.
Yeah. Namaste.
Yeah. Wish you the best. Yeah. Coming to you, Professor. So again, like you have different. They keep saying that, see, to ward away evil or enemies. There's different mantras, and if you keep chanting these, you are always, you're kind of safe. Can you just explain a little bit about that?
Yes. See, the thing is, again, I go back to my same theory, which is, if I take any mantra, right?
Yeah.
There's a different mantra is different, stotra is different, but anyway, whatever. So like, take a mantra, for example. Let's say I don't have upadesha, but I still want to chant.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, just chanting that is mere action, speech, just coming out, that's all, right? Yeah. But what gives true protection is energy inside.
Yeah.
Everything is about energy, right? Now, if that energy has to be right, then you need to understand the concept behind that. Can I explain one thing to you? Do we have time to do that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, please.
Okay. See, for example, you refer to mantras, so I'll tell you one. There's something called Sudarshana Mahamantra.
Yes.
And Sudarshana, like that word says, Sudarshana, right? It shows you the good path, it shows you the right way, and it also provides you protection.
Yeah.
Now, that Mahamantra goes like this. Om Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopi Jana Vallabhaya Paraya Parama Purushaya Paramatmane Parakarma Mantra Yantra Tantra Aushada Astra Shastrani Samhara Samhara Mrutyor Mochaya Mochaya. That is the Sudarshana Mahamantra, right? Now, suppose I sit there and chant it over and over and over again. Okay. The question is, what the heck am I doing, right? So if you look at the words, you notice that there are several components in that. It says Om Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopi Jana Vallabhaya Paraya Parama Purushaya Paramatmane. Now that entire thing is, in a way, you can say, sucking up to God, because those are adjectives. Those are adjectives that describe his nature. Now, the protection comes from the fact that when I chant that particular word, if I think of that, what that means, that's what gives me protection. So, just to pick one word out of that, let's say Om Klim Krishnaya, for example, Krishnaya, right? So, the question is, what does that word Krishna, what does it mean, right? One meaning is Akarshana Shakti, that is something that attracts everything. And there's another thing, for example, you can break it up as a Kara Ushna. Ushna means elevated energy.
Yeah.
Okay. Ka is karma. Ra means Rame, the enjoyment. So something that gives you elevated energy in the enjoyment of karma.
Yeah.
The entity that gives you that is Krishna. So if I think of these things when I chant this, then what happens? Parakarma, something others have done or want to do. Parakarma, mantra, yantra, tantra, aushada, astra, shastrani, samhara, samhara. It will destroy all those things, right? But even more importantly, mrutyor mochaya mochaya. So mrutyor mochaya mochaya doesn't mean save me from death. Mrityu is change of form. So I don't want to keep changing every day. I don't want to be one today this way, tomorrow this way. Today I have one thought, tomorrow I have another thought. I want steadiness. So when we talk about Mrityu or Mochaya, we're talking about, again, in Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna asks Sthita Pragnasya Kabhasha, Samadhistasya Kesh Mandal. So that Sthita Prajna, that being steady, that's very important.
Yeah.
We should not be unstable, right? So it gives you that stability.
Yeah. A question from Ned is, in quantum physics, it's found out that the matter or particle exists in the form of waves. In Kaivalya Upanishad, it is mentioned that the matter also has come from consciousness. Can you comment on this, Professor?
Not 100%, mainly because I don't know the correct answer, but I'll give you I don't want to say things I don't know, but I can share just my perspective on that. That's all, right? So the thing is, like I said, matter and energy are two sides of the same coin. So if you look at the universe, there's matter on one hand and energy on the other hand. So like if you look at a coin, the coin, is it the head or the tail? Well, it's both. And what is in between gives the value. Similarly, Vishwa, the universe, exists between energy and matter. And therefore, every single thing exhibits both properties. It depends on what you look at, right? So it's not just a question of Upanishad or quantum electronics or something like that. It's more a question of understanding that which side are you looking at. Like, for example, I'll give you a very, very simple example. If you look at me physically, like you're looking at my picture in the screen, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I look like. So that is the impression you get looking at the matter side.
Yeah.
But something that you cannot discern over the phone or the laptop or the internet is the energy. Yeah. So if we were to sit face and face, your impression of me is going to be very different, because now you're looking at the energy, not so much the matter. You forget about the matter part, right? So it depends on what you're looking at, and the two are related.
Yeah. Yeah. Ravi Prasad is asking, good evening, ma'am. Curious to know, only Navadhanya, but no vegetables while doing yagna.
I don't know if he means offering.
Offering, yeah.
Well, there are different things that they offer. The number 9 is a very important number for us. And the thing is that there are Navagrahas, right?
Mm.
So these Navagrahas impact what we do.
Yeah.
When we make an offering, the most important thing we offer is ghee. That's the most important thing we offer. The next important thing we offer is samit, the twigs, right? And then there are other things. So it's not a question of difference between vegetables and the dhanyas. When you make an offering, the question is, what does it represent? So that is more important. So these navadhanyas,
Mm.
because these navagrahas are there that impact us, people offer that. But if you look at the most important thing that we offer, it is the ghee. And ghee is clarified butter.
Yeah.
And butter, Navanita represents bhakti.
Mm.
Milk represents Vedic knowledge.
Yeah.
So at every step of the way, when you go from milk and end up in butter,
Mm.
conceptually there are certain things that you go through. As long as those things are there inside me, when I offer it, it impacts, in return it impacts us.
Yeah. Professor, what is the reason why we touch the feet of elders?
Sure. Well, the thing is that when you look at the Purusha Sukta, which comes from the Vedas, in that it describes the 4 important, like when you look at Varnashrama, right? There is Brahmana Varna, Kshatriya Varna, Vaishya Varna, and Shudra Varna. Of these 4 things, they in the universe, they say that the feet represents Shudra Varna.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, because Shudra Varna is service to society. That's what it is. Like if you and I, like you are doing something, offering to society as a service.
Yeah.
I may do something. So this is all that Shudra Varna. And that is the most important thing.
Yeah.
In society, that's the most important. Service is the most important thing. And secondly, even in nature, if you look at the feet, there is a connection between your pada to every single organ in your body.
Yeah.
So it's the feet are the most important thing, not the head, because everything is standing on that. So when we show respect, I touch my head to his feet. Because my thing is all my knowledge and all that is no big deal. It's the service that's important. So our way of showing respect is to touch my knowledge, intelligence, everything to that service.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. So Kanya is asking, is it true if we breathe ghee fire, it will strengthen your heart?
I'm not a cardiologist, so I don't know.
Yeah. And she talks about heart problems and bone problems as well. Yeah.
I have no idea. I really don't know, so I don't want to say random things. But I can say this much though, which is like I told you earlier, is that I happen to do homas on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And depending on what kind of homa you do, I actually have seen impact of that, not just on myself, but my family and even my surroundings. I've seen that.
Yeah. Tell me, Professor. See, my mother once she went to a village where they had a homa to bring in rain, and it was a very dry day. There was hardly anything, not even a leaf moving. And she also wondered whether this is all just a joke. And it was near some thick forests. And as the homa started happening, a little bit after some time, a slight breeze came. Then a bigger breeze, and then the wind started blowing, and finally rain came. So is this something really this really happens? I mean, she saw it. Yeah, she saw it, and
Yes, it does. again, it depends on with what understanding who's doing what.
Yeah.
But the thing is, just from a physical perspective, as you know, rain is, clouds come because of the low pressure, high pressure differential and all that, right? So if you do a big yajna, that creates the differential from a physical perspective, but that's not important for us. More important thing is we believe in Devta Shaktis. So when we do this offering, then these Devata Shaktis that control these things will make it happen. So there are two sides. One is the physical, how it happens. There's how it happens and why it happens. The how it happens is the physical thing. Why it happens is because of bigger forces.
Professor, see, in India, we have so many states, and all, the marriages that are conducted are not the same. Like, for example, in Kerala, marriages get over within few seconds. It's just you in front of the fire. You don't have a pujari. But in other places, you have a pujari, and which is more elaborate. They may have 3 days or 4 days. But what is the Vedic way of marriage? And have we all, gone further than that and made it our own styles? Can you explain that?
Well, I'm not qualified. I don't study Paurahitya. So Paurahitya is a field in itself, and I don't know much about it. But all I can say is that there are a few things in my very limited knowledge, there are a few things that are important, which is the Saptapadi, and and also basically the Agni Sakshi, right? So it's basically you're taking a diksha, like I said, you're entering Grihastha Ashrama, and you're doing it as Agni Sakshi, right? And the Mangala Sutra and all that, which is in our side, like in Karnataka, where I come from, Mangala Sutra tying is a big thing, all the Nadaswara go dum 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 and all these things. But the thing is that is fine. But if you just look at the fundamental Vedic thing, the Saptapadi and doing that first homa together as husband and wife, those things are, I think, important. But like I said, I don't know much about it. So you should actually ask somebody who studies Paurahitya. I'm not. That's not my field.
Yeah. Professor Ravi Prasad is asking, sir, why we have to have a ghanta, the bell, in temple? Is it required to, ring it?
Yeah. Well, Ganthanada, there are different things we do. We do Shankhanada and Ganthanada, right? Like in many societies, some parts of India, every evening they'll do Shankhanada, right? In Bengal, it's very, very common. So the thing is this, right? Ganthanada basically is to invite Devta Shaktis. So that's why you do it. So if it's a Ganta is really good, that Nada should be like Omkara Nada, right? If it's a good Ganta. So when you do the Ganta Nada, you're starting something, and while you're starting that, you're invoking and inviting, basically inviting all the Devata Shaktis to come there, so that karma will happen in a good way.
Professor, another thing that I've noticed is that, see, in certain temples, when you go into certain temples, mainly I've experienced it in the Shiva temples, is that, see, you feel another energy as you walk into the temple and you go around. There's some kind of very strong energy that makes you feel so good. So, is it because of the millions of prayers? What is it that energizes us so much in certain temples?
Well, to start with, we don't worship a piece of stone or something like that, right? So symbolically, we have a murti, but the more important thing is at the time of starting the temple, they do something called prana pratisthapana. So prana pratisthapana is invoking that particular Devata Shakti to come and reside there in that physical object. So we're not worshipping the physical object, we are representing that Devata Shakti that's residing there, right? Now, what happens is that if you look at, this is something we refer to as Sannidhana, right? So it's not that you need a Shivalinga for Shiva to be there. Shiva doesn't need a Shivalinga, right? You and I need a Shivalinga to invoke Shiva there, but he doesn't need it, right?
Yeah.
So he is everywhere. However, the Sannidhana is the concentration, right? So what happens is, as more and more, especially knowledgeable people, come and worship, what happens is that energy keeps, that Sannidhana, that intensity of that presence keeps increasing.
Yeah.
So when that intensity increases, the presence of other negative energies will go away.
Yeah.
So it's like breathing fresh air, right?
Yeah.
If you're living in a very polluted environment, if you suddenly go up into the mountains or something, you breathe fresh air, you feel good.
Yeah.
Similarly, this is spiritually speaking, you're going to a clean environment where there's good energy, and of course you feel good. It's not about Shivatam, any temple.
Yeah. See, in fact, this is one thing that I discussed with my Guruji. I'm an artist as well, Professor. So I paint a lot of the deities, and sometimes I get the feeling that the presence is there in the room. So I'd ask the Guruji, what is this? So he said, just like what you said, the moment you paint the form, the deity has already resided in your canvas and is there. The presence is there, and that's what you feel. So beautifully explained by you, Professor. Another point that's very important for the viewers is that Professor is doing a lot of work in preserving our manuscripts, the old manuscripts, of our Vedas. Professor, could you tell our audience a little bit about how much work is being done and how they are being preserved?
Yeah. So if you look at manuscripts, it depends on which part of the country you go to. But in the southern part of India, where I come from, most of the manuscripts are on long dried palm leaves.
Yes.
So the way they write it is that they take a sharp metal object, and it's basically engraving. It's not writing. It's not like when I take a pen and write on paper. It's not like that. They're actually engraving. And after that engraving is done, you put some vegetable ink and wipe it off, and that's how you see it. Now, what happens over time? It's a very good medium, by the way. It lasts for centuries. Like books don't last centuries. Your electronic files don't last that long. But Talagari, the palm leaf manuscripts, they last for a long, long time. However, it's a material object and it will deteriorate with time.
Yeah.
So if you, after 500, 600 years, a couple of things happen to that. One is the moisture goes away from it and it becomes very brittle. That's one thing. The second thing that happens, the ink will fade away. Ink will go away. So you cannot read. A third thing that happens is that there'll be fungus growth sometimes on that thing, blocking that thing from you. So what we have done is, I've been doing this for about 15 years now, is that we use technology for preserving this, because I come from technology background. So what happens is, if you take a palm leaf with, say, fungus growth on it, you cannot scrape it off because it'll be old, brittle, it'll break. It'll become powder, right? You'll lose the manuscript. So you have to extract that image without even touching that thing, right? So how you can do that is something we refer to as multispectral imaging. So it happens that when you image at different frequencies, from say infrared to ultraviolet, these things penetrate to different depths. So we use different, I can show it to you. Come to Bangalore. Well, you are in Bangalore. Okay, next time I'm in Bangalore. We have it there with the instrument. So by the way, there are 14 of those things. The only one in India, we happen to have it in our trust. So you image it at different frequencies, which goes to different depths. So even things you cannot see, I can computationally rebuild that image. So you end up with a very readable image. So imaging is one thing. Then the next question is, what do you transfer it to for saving? There are two things we do. One is we print it on archival paper that lasts maybe a couple of 100 years. And we also have another technology we call wafer fish, where we use silicon wafers and use semiconductor technology to do metallization and map it out. That lasts 500-600 years. And it's also fireproof and waterproof. So those are the two technologies. And as of now, we have, I think, approximately 3,000 manuscripts we have saved
Yeah.
using this technology, and it's an ongoing thing. We just keep doing it.
Yeah, Professor, but one thing with regards to this is that the language would be old, isn't it? That would be in archaic Sanskrit,
Oh, yes.
isn't it? Yeah. So you have to be well versed in it to understand
Of
it
course.
as well, isn't it? Yeah.
Of course.
Why I'm asking is that see, we've been to Vaitishwaran Kovil about 2 or 3 times, and there they have these leaves where they actually tell you your past, your present, and your future. And so
Okay,
what
sure.
I mean, yeah, though I'm also a skeptic, but the first person who did that for me, he gave me everything about my future. I think about 89-90% was true, came out true. So I was
Maybe.
very surprised. Yeah, I was very surprised. But then, mainly again coming back to the fact that these were written on olas, and as you say, it remains for so many years, so many. I also heard that you people come to you with manuscripts for you to actually save them and restore
Yes,
them.
yes, we do. Matter of fact, just yesterday, as a
Yeah.
matter of fact, I got an email from some gentleman in Andhra Pradesh
Huh.
who's trying to do something and said, "Can we collaborate and all that?" Yeah, we are happy to share our technology. There's absolutely no commercial angle to this. Zero. Me and my shishyas, matter of fact, we're building a Vedic library in near Udupi, and that'll be done next year. We are creating an electronic library. We have a physical library with books in it and so on, of the old manuscripts. But these are, I have to point out that it's not useful for general public. I don't know about Jyotisha. No, I laughed at that time because
Yeah.
I don't know about Jyotisha. That's what you were
Yeah.
referring to. But the knowledge part, right, the retention of the knowledge is important for scholars. It's basically meant for scholars who should read those things, extract things, and from that give things to society. So we have a responsibility to save these things.
Yes. A question from Ravi Prasad. So why Navagraha are present in almost all temples? Any reason?
Yeah, again, that I think we sort of touched upon this a little while ago. Is that the thing is all the grahas, right? By the way, graha is not a planet. Just so you know, Navagrahas, the 9 grahas. See, graha means something that captures you. Okay.
Yeah.
So my Chandra is a graha, for example, because it has impact on my mind, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, our wise ones in the past, they figured out all these Navagrahas, and it's not the physical planet, but the Devata Shakti associated with that graha, right? So when you go to Navagraha, the thing is that we want to make sure that these Devata Shaktis are worshipped, and its impact, no graha is going to do anything bad to you. Okay, the Devata Shaktis will not harm, like I'm not going to harm you. Why will you won't harm me? So why will Devata Shakti harm any of us, right? However, what does happen is that certain times, certain things are more conducive, right? And so what happens is that we want to make sure that if certain things are conducive, we don't get negatively affected by that. So to overcome those things, we do Navagraha Puja.
One last question, Professor, before we wind up, is the significance of flowers in our rituals. How important it is, and what is the significance?
There are 2 components to that, Meena. One is, if you take any flower, and I offer a flower, right? There is an energy component in that, right? So any flower, as you know, has a specific color. It has a certain fragrance also, right? So, and it is soft. Usually flowers are very soft. So when we do a mala, that is a garland, when we make a garland of flowers, when we offer it to God, the thought behind that is every garland represents bandhana, that is bondage, right? So some bondages we don't want. Like, for example, if they want to control a cow, for example, they put a rope around its neck, right? So every mala is a bondage. In this particular instance, I am actually asking for bondage with God. Let's say, I want to have bondage with you. But what kind of bondage? It should be as soft, as fragrant as this mala. So I want a soft, fragrant bondage with God. That is the representation. But there's, like I said earlier, there's a second component, which is the energy. Like if you offer red flower, it means something. If you offer white flower, it means something. So different colors of different energies. And right at the beginning of this talk, we said that we quoted and said, however you offer is what you get back, or gets reflected. So if I offer red, I get red energy back. If I offer white, I get white energy back. So that's why we use certain specific colors. Like if you go to most temples, you see that very common, they use purple, they use yellow, they use red, white, and because all these things have specific impact. Right?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Professor. What a really brilliant chat with you. And just maybe, I think there's just one question. Some flowers are not taken for puja. Similarly, tulsi is not used in Shiva temple. Any reason?
Yeah, tulsi, there's a story behind it. But the important thing is there's a connection between tulsi and shaligrama. And shaligrama has presence of Vishnu. So without going into the story, and it's not just a story, but also the spiritual meaning behind it. The thing is that tulsi is sort of reserved for Vishnu, because after Deepavali, we have a day comes called Uthana Dwadashi, on the Dwadashi day, and that particular day is when Tulsi Vivaha takes place. And again, I can tell you a story, but there's a spiritual meaning behind it. So there's a connection between Tulsi and Vishnu. If you go to Shiva temple, for example, they use Bilva Patra. Again, that has meaning, right? So for each entity, there is a certain, based on what that entity is and what it does and its impact on me, we use different things. Okay.
Ravi Prasad is saying, thank you so much. Amazing information. And Amrita says, please ask Professor where we can learn these things about our culture so we are able to teach our children as well. My generation is clueless.
Well, my answer is that all of us need a guru. In Kannada, my mother tongue, there was a very famous poet. His name was Purandara Dasa. And one of his famous Devarnamas goes something like, Guruvina Gulamanagavattanaka Doreyadanna Mukuti. So he says, until you become a servant of a guru, nothing happens. And the reason for that is knowledge comes, it's a connection, right? So you need a channel. And but having said that, this is specifically for that lady who asked this question, just Amrita, talking about talking about myself, is that I use different platforms. There's some small videos and all that my shishas, they put it on Twitter and all that, actually. And also our website, we have a trust in Bangalore. It's called Tara Prakashna. So the website is taraprakashana.org. If you go there, there are a lot of videos and things like that. I also, every Saturday, I do pravachana for 1 hour on the internet. People log in from different places. If anybody is interested, they can send an email to me at, you can post my email. It is prof.pr.mukund@gmail.com.
Thank you so much, Professor. It's really been interesting. Thank you for taking all the questions as well. And we'll invite you for another session, because this sounded rather short. So we'll have one more session with you, Doc, later. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you, Meena. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good night.